trade chat. The never-ending ocean of wealth, thievery, death threats, an aggravating amount of adult-sized babies, but most importantly, the game's premium currency, platinum. Without this currency, you can go pretty far, but you will run out of gas, and it's probably why you're here too. I'm gonna teach you how to survive trade chat along with other information that I think you're gonna need to know when starting out, but it all really depends on how clever you are about it. Full disclosure though, I'm not gonna tell you how to farm anything specific. This is because hordes of new players listening to YouTubers telling them to farm something specific to make 2,000 plat an hour has historically not turned out all that well. So for the most part, I'm gonna avoid talking about specific markets. Also, if you're a veteran player and you're just here for the unspoken rules part, you're probably going to be disappointed. But anyway, for the rest of you guys, some of you might be wondering, why should you take my advice? Well, I'll tell you now. I am a free-to-play player. That's right. I haven't even spent a single penny on this game, and I wear that like a badge of honor. I also just think of it as a fun challenge at this point. But anyway, you need to learn stuff, so let's start with vocabulary and go from there. You're gonna see a lot of acronyms in trade chat, and if you're looking at it for the first time, I can imagine it's kind of confusing. So here's a good chart just telling you the basic acronyms, pretty much the important ones. Some of them you might not see as much, but here, screenshot it. There you go. Going on to proper formatting, you should format your posts like this. And very important note here, make sure that you link the item by putting its exact name in between brackets. The reason you would want to link your item is so people can click on it and see if they have enough to sell. I cannot overstate how important this is, because when I see somebody wanting to buy primed PVC pipe, for instance, and I want to see if I have an extra to sell, I would have to go into my inventory and manually check for that. And people like me that are just looking at trade chat and selling whatever we got extra of, when somebody doesn't link their item, I don't know if I have an extra to sell. So I'm just gonna move on to the next post that actually linked their items. Also, here's a thing that I should have mentioned earlier. In the case where you need to buy or sell a Warframe blueprint, for instance, just put the name of the Warframe in brackets, and then after that just put down blueprint. You can't just link the whole Warframe and expect people to understand that you just want the blueprint and nothing else. But yeah, I just thought that would be important to mention. But you know what else is important? Being able to trade in the first place. Now don't get me wrong, you can trade. You can trade right now if you wanted to. However, Maru's Bazaar? Are you kidding me? You're telling me I gotta go through what is essentially Warframe Wall Street in the 90s just to access a little private trade with you? You know how long that takes if you have bad internet? It's like a whole 5 minutes to get the trade through. I'm not doing all that. What you need to do here, bub, is that you need to get yourself a clan, and a good clan at that. Step 1, go into recruiting chat and beg to be invited to a clan. And before accepting an invite from any sort of clan, ask them if they have a monthly resource requirement, and also ask them if they have a clan tax. If they have a clan tax, that's what we call a loser clan. And if they're just asking for resources and not requiring them, it's fine. Step 2, open up the menu, go to options, go to social. Underneath social, scroll down until you find region chat. Make sure that box is clicked off, then confirm settings. Step 3, once you have access to a clan dojo, go to it and look for 2 things. Check to see if the trading post is right in front of you when you first spawn in, and then click on the trading post just to verify that there is no clan tax. As I said before, if it has a clan tax, it's a loser clan. But if you need to fast travel to the trade post in order to find it, on top of that, that's what we call a super loser clan. You don't want to be associated with these guys, just hop to a different clan that's better, cause only plebeians need to fast travel to their own trading post. Also, a little side note here, don't be scared whenever you're instantly queued into a dojo or anything like that right after accepting an invite. They're just being prompt about it. They're trying not to waste anybody's time here. I've done this with people and they've done the same to me. It's really no big deal. Now let's say you're looking for a full set of example prime and you see a guy wanting to sell example prime for, let's say, 100 plat. But you think 100 plat is a downright abysmal price. And yeah, you could be right, so what do? Do you scream in his face, crying and bawling your eyes out about how this price isn't up to Warframe Market standard and that he wouldn't know that because he doesn't go to the Cloud District all that often? Or Do you give a simple counter offer in a similar manner to what you're seeing on screen, and if he can't accept that, just leave it with a no thank you? Now careful on this question, because a lot of people somehow get this wrong. If you answered the latter because you're an emotionally stable person, you're correct. You see, trade chat has and always will be what's called a free market. That means anybody can price anything any way they want, and you can't change that. All you can do is just choose whether to buy or sell with them or not. Now don't get me wrong, the vast majority of people in trade chat has come to a general consensus of what things should be priced at. That means you can't just price floor gum for like 2,000 plat. I mean, you definitely could, but it only works on stupid people. If you see somebody overpricing something, don't get all emotional about it. The key to trade chat is to just not have emotions in general. Here's a near perfect example of what a trade should look like. This guy out in trade chat asks for a Latron ribbon, and I send him mine, which is an unrolled and pretty crappy one. From what I could remember, it's like critical damage and zoom. It's really not that good. He asks how much. I say 120. He offered a Comac ribbon to possibly either trade or get a discount. I said no thank you for the Comac ribbon, and then he tried and downplay my price. Albeit a little bit rude, he could have done it without the bro and lol. I double down. Now despite me not really knowing this thing's actual worth, I know that it's a ribbon for an Incarnon weapon, so that makes it really valuable, especially considering the fact that I see a lot of people wanting to buy it. Then this guy actually gives me a compromise and I agree to it. We go to my dojo, we make the trade, we exchange thank yous, that's that. We both got what we wanted here. I'm also really happy about the fact that I got that ribbon not even 5 minutes prior to the trade. Moral of the story here, this trade wouldn't have gone through and we both wouldn't have gotten what we wanted if we were childish enough to not accept counteroffers. And now to address a little pet peeve of mine, I do not care about Warframe Market.
What?
I never have. For those of you that don't understand what I'm talking about, Warframe Market is a third-party website that is essentially just trade chat but with cheaper prices. And for some reason, some of the snobs from Warframe Market leak out back into trade chat just to whine and complain about how different the prices are. If you want Warframe Market prices, go to Warframe Market. Is no one stopping you? Why are you even in trade chat? I don't get it. You're not some morally superior deity that's gracing us with fair prices. And if I counteroffer your post that is in trade chat and you say, actually that's not what Warframe Market says, I just want you to know that I respect but humbly disagree with your opinion, because doing or saying anything rash would be against Warframe's TOS. Now do us both a favor and stay in Warframe Market if you can't handle the chat. And for those of you wondering why I don't personally use Warframe Market, my primary reason is that the snobs that have been whining in trade chat for all these years have done an immaculate job at advertising Warframe Market and their fair prices, to the point to where I actually hate the website. And the other reason is, again, I don't really care about Warframe Market. I'm perfectly happy with trade chat. Now I'd like to address something I said a little bit earlier, specifically when I said anybody can price anything any way they want and you can't change that. Now anybody who understands rudimentary economics will know that's not entirely true. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say hypothetically, in the Xbox side of trade chat, an undetermined amount of time before the date of April 13th, 2021, slave labor wasn't invented yet, segregation was still a thing, and the new war update has yet to come out. In the midst of all this, I was me, and I was rather new at the game. I'd like to say around MR10, but that's not important. What is important is that a couple of associates of mine found out that people really like this gun called Shido. They also found out that not a lot of people are selling it. Why is this? It was because it was only found through killing sentients in the Veiled Proxima. So with that, we hatched a plan. We'd get the three of us, and we'd go out and do this mission as fast as we possibly could. We didn't just stop there though, because we also needed efficiency. We found out pretty quickly that pretty much all the loot frames could dupe drops. From that point, it just came down to selling the pieces off. We all agreed to sell sets at a minimum of 350 with no exceptions. And we also agreed to split the profit of each sale 3 ways. And what was anybody gonna do in trade chat? Tell us no? We were the only ones selling Shido. Heck, we'd even pretend to fight each other on prices just so people in trade chat would feel more inclined to buy the cheaper price. But then we eventually ran into a problem. Other entrepreneurs saw what we were doing and wanted to do the same thing, only they were selling at cheaper prices just to undercut us. But what they didn't account for is that we've been doing this longer than them. We have more capital than them. So we bought out their cheaper Shido sets and then sold them at our prices, effectively making them our employees. So there's a lot of important takeaways from what I just said here. So to start off, this was all hypothetical and has never happened. You can't prove that. And as for the second, if you manage to sell something to this degree, by all means go for it. But very important note here, shut up about it. The only reason I told you about my hypothetical Shido monopoly that I was running back in 2021 is because firstly, it never happened, and secondly, I don't even use that as a means of getting plat anymore. I can afford to use more ethical means nowadays. Anyway, to get back to it, this is going to address what I was trying to say earlier when I was talking about YouTubers. YouTubers have a nasty habit of finding a platform and then blabbing about it to 2 million people. Now, pop quiz, what do you think happens when 2 million people see your super secret platform and want to go try it themselves? If you understand basic economics, you would have answered that the price freaking crashes to the point of where it's not even worth dirt. Now let's give you a prime example here. It was a long time ago and it was still before the new war update. Trade chat was going as normal and me and my buddies were selling what's called drift mods. They were easy to farm and you made a decent amount of plat off of them. Specifically, the going price was 15 plat at the time. It was great. That was until one day some YouTuber realized that, hey, this is a pretty good platform, and he couldn't help himself but to blab about it to the whole world. Not kidding here, what do you think the price was the day after that video dropped? If you guessed 10 plat, you're wrong. If you guessed 5 plat, you're close, but you're wrong. The answer was frickin' nothing. Nobody wanted to buy it anymore, and you were even lucky to sell it for 5. Trade chat operates in multiples of 5. That was the lowest price. Everybody knew how to get it now, and everybody was trying to sell it. It was bad. Nowadays, the market has recovered for the most part, but it still has never been the same since. And this video probably isn't helping either, but you know what? You guys need to learn. And I did add the disclaimer at the start of the video saying that I'd avoid talking about specific markets for the most part. Emphasis on the word most. So in summary, trade chat is a big game of hide and seek, and it really sucks to get found. Some markets are impervious to this sort of thing though, but at the same time, they're a lot more difficult. Anyway, to move on to other things, let's talk about scams. Trade chat has a lot of scams, this much is known, but newer players aren't gonna be all that familiar with the scams that trade chat has to offer. I'm gonna cover the ones I know. Let's start off with a classic, Umbra mod. Yeah, this is future me. Now the reason I'm here is because I finished recording the entire script at this point, and now I'm just working on the visuals. And while I was working on the visuals, it turns out that you can't even sell Umbra mods. You never could, which is really weird because I could have sworn you could. But I guess since we're here, I might as well just tell you how you can figure out if an item is tradable. You see, if you preview it, you can look up into the top left corner of the screen and it should say tradable. Here's what Cunning Drift is gonna look like for reference. Anyway, I'm just gonna cut back into the video now like nothing ever happened, so see ya. Just apply this sort of ruling whenever buying just about anything. Do not buy something until you learn where it comes from. Now, saying something like this is pretty stupid because it's just common knowledge, but you'd be surprised. I may or may not know the guy who has sold floor gum for 2,000 plat. But anyway, let's move on to a scam that someone may have invented on their own. And this scam's a little tricky, so let me run you through it real quick. Over here, we got example. Not primed example, but just example. And you really want it. A guy offers you it for 30 plat. That's not a bad price for what you're getting. But he also offers to max rank it for an additional 30 plat. You're getting a max ranked mod for just 60 plat at that point, which is a pretty good steal. Except what you're not accounting for is that example maxes out at 5 and not 10. Most people, when they're offered a mod max rank, they automatically assume that the cost of endo to max rank that mod is significantly higher than what it actually is sometimes. And this scam is preying on the idea that you don't know that a rank 5 mod is significantly cheaper to level up than a rank 10 one. And just to give you a sense of scale, mods that go up to rank 3 cost 210 endo. That's chump change. Mods that go up to rank 5, they're 930. Still pretty cheap. Rank 10 mods, when maxed out, can cost you up to 30,000 endo. This is what the scammer wants you to think you're avoiding. And just since we're talking about it, a maxed out rank 10 prime mod is going to cost up to 40,000 endo. This scam surprisingly gets a lot more people than you think it would. For the scammer, they could either sell it for the price that it normally goes for, that, or they could just fork over an infinitesimal amount of endo and then double the price. It's honestly pretty clever. Now let's say you see a guy in trade chat wanting to buy something that you just so happen to have. You offer him 20 plat and he hits you with the old,
I gotta get it once you give me 15 plat for it. You wanna go any lower?
And like, bro, This is a pretty common scam. I personally don't know anybody who has fallen for it, but like no one falls for this. You gotta be something different to fall for this. And honestly, the most common of scams are just people lowballing each other. Now, whenever you get a message on the level of this, you just double down or you tell them no thank you. To once again refer to the etiquette part of the video, do not have emotions, just be respectful about it. You see, what you gotta understand is there's actually a bit of an honor amongst thieves in trade chat. If you prove that you either know what they're trying to do or you're just smart enough to not fall for what they're trying to do, in most cases they will respect that. And in some cases they will actually work with you with a more reasonable price. You can honestly meet some really nice people out there if you just decline their blatant scams in a polite manner. Courtesy goes a long way and a lot of people just don't get that. Now, does everyone deserve courtesy? No. Some people have brain damage and you just can't change that. But I am gonna invite you to not be part of the problem. Also, since we're on courtesy, I have a little thing that I forgot to mention earlier when talking about etiquette. When ending a trade, just exchange thank yous. Don't try to be different and say something like no problem. Like, bro, you're not gifting me anything. We both exchanged items for what we believe to be a fair trade. Just leave it with a thank you and stop trying to be that one kid that says not here during attendance. Anyway, that's all I can pretty much think of when it comes to scams. And if you noticed, these scams only work on newborn babies and stupid people. You're probably more concerned about avoiding a scam on the level of my non-existent Shido monopoly. Well, first off, it's technically not a scam if you're the only person selling it. And secondly, there's nothing you can really do about it except farm it yourself. But anyway, let's move on to the sort of last segment of this video, and that's pricing. Pricing is a little bit of a tricky skill. You're gonna need to spend a decent chunk of time in trade chat just to get a grasp of what things should be priced at. But what if you don't have a lot of time to spend in trade chat? What if you're just trying to sell a full set of a Warframe you just got? How would you do the research to figure out what it can be priced at in trade chat? Well, I'll tell you what the last thing you should do is, and that's looking at Warframe Market. You see, Warframe Market has its own ecosystem on how things should be priced, and so does trade chat, in case you haven't already figured it out. If you were to go into trade chat with Warframe Market's prices in mind, you're gonna look stupid, and vice versa. So how would you figure out the price in trade chat? Well, there's a few methods. So let's start off with chat filters here. If you were really dedicated in just figuring out the price of one specific item, well, this would be one of the best ways to help with that. If you open up trade chat, you can see a little magnifying glass in sort of like the top left. If you're on PC, you can just go ahead and click on that, but if you're on console, I think you can still click on it, but there's also like a button for it. I don't know. Point is, you want to add a little text filter for what you're trying to figure out the price of. And if you're an overthinker like me, don't worry. It's going to account for capital letters and lowercase letters at the same time. Just worry about spelling it correctly and adding your spaces. Also, if you wanted to filter out something from trade chat just so you don't see it, you can click this little box here and then press add. And of course, you can just turn off these filters whenever you like. Now, whenever you do this, you're going to have a general idea of what the supply and demand of the market is. If you see a lot more wanting to sell posts than you do wanting to buy posts, then that means there's too much supply in the market, aka it's a buyer's market. And if it's the reverse, then of course it's a seller's market. And if it's a buyer's market, for instance, the people that say wanting to buy in trade chat are going to be closer to the price that it's currently going for. Take note of the fact that I didn't say it is the price that it should be. What do I mean by this? Let's say you're a seller. You grinded 4 hours straight for one stupid little mod and you're trying to sell it for 100 plat. But let's say by coincidence, 2 million other people are trying to sell the exact same mod for the same price, but nobody's getting that many sales. It's a fair price for the effort that you put into it, but when a buyer sees this, they can quickly figure out that if this many people want to sell it, then one of them is bound to cave in on their prices. In fact, they're probably already caving in right now because apparently some people have mortgage payments due in Warframe, and they don't have the patience to stick to the price that everyone else is selling it at. So now that one mod that should have been worth 100 plat for how rare it is now only worth 20 plat because the market is too popular. This makes sense? But to get back on track, another way of figuring out the price is by putting out a post with PMO in it instead of an actual price. This way you can get several different offers from several different people, and from there you essentially made your own miniature auction. Now this last method I want to cover is my personal favorite, but it also requires a lot of experience in trade chat just so you have a good idea of what the value of platinum is. But it is just simply doing the research on how hard the item is to get and then pricing it accordingly. You don't care about the supply and demand, you don't care about what everyone else is selling it at, and you don't care what people are telling you to price it at. You know that this item is rarer than a random going to extraction within a reasonable time frame in a capture mission, and you are not about to go discount the time that you put into getting that item for half a dang Warframe slot. Oh yeah, and before you mention it in the comments, I do not think that asking for a price check in trade chat is a viable means of determining price. Like, just think about it for a second. What do you honestly expect when you ask for a price check in trade chat? Do you expect people to tell you the truth? Are you stupid? You shouldn't be. You've gotten this far into the video. Use your brain. If you're trying to buy items, just use the PMO method I mentioned earlier, because you're actually getting offers that way, rather than people trying to gaslight you into believing a different price range for the item. Now, with all the information I've discussed in this video by now, you're probably wondering, why shouldn't you use Warframe Market at this point? After all, it is a cheaper way of buying stuff, and you're absolutely right. However, trade chat has one major upside to it that Warframe Market doesn't, and that's inflation. Warframe is a video game and not reality, so inflation is actually kind of good here. What do I mean by this? I'm meaning the in-game market. You know, where you buy all your cosmetics and your boosters, and more importantly, your weapon and Warframe slots, all that sort of stuff. After all, it is the primary reason that you need platinum in the first place, right? Well, you see, the prices in the in-game market aren't attached to the markets made by other players trading. So to give you a better idea of what I'm talking about here, let's say there's a mod going for 20 plat in trade chat, but in Warframe Market, the same mod is going for 5 plat. Where do you think it would be better to sell that mod? Yeah, the way Warframe Market works, from my understanding, is that it filters the cheapest price to the top of the page, and you can keep that post up for a longer time than you would trade chat, thus eliminating the FOMO that comes with trade chat. But with this feature, it comes with a major downside of effectively making every market in Warframe Market a competition between sellers to see who can sell the cheapest. Which, you know, it makes me sound like a supervillain when I talk about it in this way, but stick with me here. It makes a really buyer-friendly market, which, don't get me wrong, that's pretty cool, but if everybody was buying and selling at a more inflated market value, sure, it would cost more to buy stuff from people, and if you're holding on to like a huge amount of savings of platinum for whatever reason, it's gonna take a chunk out of that. But you also gotta consider the fact that everybody's going to be making more, which is going to make it significantly easier for everybody to get what they want from the in-game market. Because once again, the in-game market prices are static, and you don't really have the chance of this happening inside Warframe Market just from the way they've got the website set up. Now, a lot of you have already picked up on the idea of just buying in Warframe Market and then selling in trade chat, and yeah, you can absolutely do that. I'm not here to stop you. The reason I don't do that myself is because, firstly, I've talked about it a bit earlier, I actually hate the website, mostly out of irrational reasons. Am I gonna change that? No, not really. And secondly, I practice what I preach here, bub. I think that's a pretty scummy thing to do. Alright, so now that we've gotten this far, here's your invitation to the Thieves Guild. Accept it if you want to, I don't care. But now you should be good to go out into trade chat, unless there's like something I missed, but I don't know what that is. So to give you a simple synopsis of the video, be polite, don't get emotional, scams are real and they can hurt you if you are stupid. Trade chat and Warframe Market are two different ecosystems with very different prices. Always do the research on the item that you're about to trade with. And most importantly, shut up. Thank you for being here. Like it if you do. I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to talk about in this video, so yeah, and end of the video. Alright, so I'm gonna do something a bit different from last time. I pretty much just got like a sheet full of bullet points that I want to talk about. Even then, it's not like full of bullet points. I'll just find whatever I come up with. But start off, I do not have an economics degree. I just see what I see and I think what I think. Yeah, the market could do some inflation. Like, I'm going to stand by that. It needs more inflation. But that's not to say I'm against, like, buyers, like, actually buying stuff. Like, do what you want with your plat at the end of the day. I'm not telling you to do anything with your plat. I'm giving you guidelines, and I'm pretty much just expressing what I want out of trade chat when it comes to like inflation and all that. But you know, I just want a balanced market. I don't want sellers to dominate it. I don't want buyers to dominate it. And I don't know, from the way Warframe Market looks to me as an outsider, I feel like it's a buyer's market, just from the way it looks, or at least like, I don't know, it suffers from massive deflation. It needs to work on that. But yeah, another thing I wanted to talk about, I don't hate all Warframe Market players. I know, kind of a shocker the way I depict them. But yeah, I just happen to run across all of the bad ones. I always give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm assuming a lot more Warframe Market players are kind and understanding people. I am going to continue to have that belief, despite the fact that I have and will continue to get evidence as to otherwise. But you know what? Screw that. I don't want to be logical about this sort of subject. But you know, I just needed to blow off some steam with this video, because you don't see me walking into Warframe Market crying and screaming. So this is my way of getting a bit back at those players, you know? Because they're jerks. And it's not like trade chat is unusable. I'm tired of Warframe Market players, at least the ones I'm interacting with. They're always cherry picking instances, or looking at some people getting scammed, or some monopolies that don't exist anymore ever since cross trade. And they're always like, that's why I use Warframe Market. Buddy, you can have a monopoly in Warframe Market. There is nothing stopping you from doing that. I don't know, I'm just tired of the Warframe Market players that I interact with just being always on their high horse about the platform and how great and gospelish it is. I really don't care. As long as you're not stupid and you have like above a room temperature IQ, you will be fine in trade chat. It is not hard. Oh yeah, another thing I wanted to cover, I really expected this video to be around like 17 minutes. Like that's what I was telling my friends, like, it's gonna be like a 17-minute video. It shouldn't take too long to make. Turns out it's not. It took me a large minute, but you know what? Not too many big events happened, and I wasn't that lazy about making the video this time. So, yeah, 20 minutes, almost a half an hour. So, dodge that, but it makes me afraid of my future content, because I feel like a lot of that's just going to be like around half an hour long, you know? And I plan on making like even a shorter form video. Hopefully this one will actually be like 17 minutes or less, just a little bit later. I'll be talking about like, what I hope for the channel or something like that. I don't know. I got rough ideas at the moment, but it's going to be pretty much like victory laps over the arbitration video, because I was happy about that. I have 500-ish subscribers from it alone, which is pretty freaking cool. Thank you guys. I don't really have much else to talk about, like, I guess other than the comments, but you know, that's for the victory laps video, so expect that next year. Like, I feel like I need to cut back on uploading so much. Like, I don't want to give you guys too much expectations here. I gotta ration it. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna ration it. You're gonna starve in the basement and die. Don't think I forgot about it now. Let's see the sentence of the day. What do we got? Snitches get stitches. Okay, so that's kind of relevant to what I was talking about earlier. Just shut up about your plat markets. I feel like I can't say that enough, given the fact there's so many YouTube videos about it. But yeah, like, don't get mauled to death in the streets. Bye. Bye-bye.